Welcome into Seahawks Today, powered by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. Appreciate you joining us. On today's show, we will break down the top free agent targets for your Seattle Seahawks here in the 2023 NFL offseason. But first, before we get to that, if you want more Seahawks content like you're seeing today and want to see the latest happenings with your favorite team, then I need to do a little quick poll. Like today's video. If that's what you want to see, if you are a Seahawks fan and enjoy what we do here, hit that like button. We'll get started with the show. Free agency just around the corner as the Seahawks season is complete. And now what will they do as they prepare for this offseason? And what I decided to do was break down the Seahawks based on needs and then go into their top 40 possible players they could potentially sign, the best at all of those positions that they have needs of. Geno Smith is set to be a free agent this offseason, although it's expected that he'll return. Rashad Penny, Poona Ford, Drew Lock also going to be a free agent. Worth noting, though, I don't think free agency for Seattle will be a high priority, though, as they have 9 picks in this upcoming draft, including 2 first-round picks at 5 and at 20. And so with that said, this team, a young group, you have to think that's where they want to really make their mark is through the draft. But some guys potentially they could look at. Let's start with the defensive line. We all know that the Seahawks struggled to stop the run this year, in particular what happened up front at the line of scrimmage. So here's some D-line options for Seattle, including Javon Hargrave from the Philadelphia Eagles. Heck of a football player, but I think there's a good chance he ends up back in Philly. But for now, he's expected to be a free agent. Daron Payne, the Washington Commanders defensive tackle, still a very young football player, and he was drafted in the first round back in 2018 and ended up as an all-rookie team player when he was coming out after that first year. And I got to tell you, I was so impressed. He's coming off the best season of his young career so far with 11.5 sacks here in 2022. So watch out. He's going to be a very popular name around the NFL of somebody to keep in mind. A few more on the defensive line. Dalvin Tomlinson from the Minnesota Vikings. You also have Dre'mont Jones from the Denver Broncos. And then there's Zach Allen from the Arizona Cardinals. And the Cardinals, in full-on rebuild mode themselves, don't know if they want to pay the money for a guy like Zach Allen as they bring in a new regime going forward. But I got to tell you, of this group of when you consider likelihood and then also of talent and then youth, to me, Daron Payne is my favorite of this bunch potentially because I don't see Hargrave leaving Philadelphia. I think they're going to find a way to keep him around. But Payne, this seems like a potential really good fit for the Seahawks and could do a lot of help for this Seattle team, although his price tag won't be cheap, with a lot of teams certainly very interested in what he brings to the table. Your turn to be the GM here on Seahawks Today. Would you sign Mr. Payne? Would you want him to bring the pain to Seattle? If so, type S for sign. If not, type P for pass. Let me know in the comment section how you're feeling if Seattle should bring in Payne. Let's talk edge rushers now. Here's the top 5 names to keep in mind. Marcus Davenport from the New Orleans Saints. Heck of a football player. We'll have more on him in just a second. A name familiar with Seahawk fans, former Seattle Seahawk Jadeveon Clowney, is going to be a free agent once again, and we'll see if his services could be potentially needed in Seattle, although there's questions with the scheme that Clint Hurt runs, how well Clowney would fit and what Seattle wants to do necessarily. Then there's Melvin Ingram of the Miami Dolphins and previously with the Kansas City Chiefs, the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's played for a few teams now. I don't know about his price tag necessarily because he's kind of been around the neighborhood in the last few years. He might not be one that commands too high of a price. Justin Houston is coming off a really good year with the Baltimore Ravens. He's 34 years old and still had 9.5 sacks this year. Unbelievable what Justin was able to do this past season. But as we mentioned, an older guy. Do you want to bring an older guy to this young team. And then there's Brandon Graham from Philadelphia as well as a potential option. But let's tell you more about Marcus Davenport of the New Orleans Saints. Young football player, was drafted back in 2018, an all-rookie team member. And he has dealt with some injuries, though, throughout his career at this point. And that's kind of limited him a bit. So that's something to keep in mind. The talent is certainly there with Marcus Davenport, but do you want to pay that type of money for a guy that hasn't necessarily always been around? 21.5 sacks in his 5 seasons in the National Football League to this point. Tell me in the comment section, what say you? Sign Marcus Davenport? You like the idea of bringing him to the Seattle Seahawks? Let me know in the comment section. Type Y for yes, in for no, if you want to see Marcus Davenport in Seattle. Today's show is presented by LinkedIn Talent Solutions. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps find the people for your team faster and for free. You know, we're all trying to look for jobs at some point, and with LinkedIn, it's a great resource of making the right hire, not just finding anybody, but making the right hire for your company, for your small business. And get this, you can add your job in the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Let people know that you have jobs available. It's that easy. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who'd you like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs number 1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find qualified candidates you'll want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/NFL Daily. That's linkedin.com/NFL Daily to post your jobs for free. Let's move on to the linebacker position, and it's interesting what Seattle's going through with Jordan Brooks likely missing most of next season with the torn ACL he had at the end of this past year. Cody Barton was a little sus at times. I don't want to bring Cody Barton back to Seattle, but ultimately that's a decision for John Schneider. So here's a few names on the free agent market. Lavonte David of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, very talented football player. David Long of Tennessee, also an option for Seattle. How about TJ Edwards of the Philadelphia Eagles, another name to keep in mind. And then there's Tremaine Edmunds of the Buffalo Bills. He has been a huge impact player for Buffalo and a big part of their success over this run they've been on here. Germaine Pratt, also with the Cincinnati Bengals, another name to keep in mind. Now let's talk the offensive line. We already know the Seahawks have their left tackle and right tackle for the future with Abraham Lucas and with Charles Cross. But then beyond that, you look at the guard spots in the center position, then there becomes some questions about your future, whether it's through the draft or free agency. I think you are open to wholesale changes when it comes to those guard and center positions. Ben Powers with the Baltimore Ravens is an option. Played for the University of Oklahoma, had a breakout season for the Ravens this year. And then you go to Philadelphia. What about Isaac Samalo is another name to keep in mind potentially. Now let's look at centers for Seattle. Look, I was not a big fan of Austin Blythe, and I think that he's definitely getting replaced this year. Ethan Pocket from the Cleveland Browns is a name to keep in mind. This guy I really like. Still very young. Dalton Reisner from the Denver Broncos. Plays with a bit of fire to him. A little bit of energy of some sorts that he brings to the table. And you can see that he's quite the leader. Loves to communicate and be that guy. He is somebody I'm very interested in for Seattle potentially. And then out of Carolina, Bradley Bozeman is another option as well. So let's tell you more about Dalton Reisner. He's the guy that kind of stands out to me here, which we know that Seattle has had players come in from Denver before, And you look at what he brings to the table. A second-round pick by Denver back in 2018. Still a very young guy as he was an all-rookie team member just a few years ago. And another thing to think about with Reisner is the durability factor. He only missed 4 games in 4 seasons due to injury. He has been very reliable, very consistent. So not only are you talking about a guy that's still very young that would be getting his second contract, but somebody that can be dependable. I would like the idea of bringing in Dalton Reisner. I don't think that would be one that would cost you too much. What's the Seahawks' biggest need this offseason? Give me a position that comes to mind that Seattle should focus on that they need to really shore up for this upcoming year. Let me know in the comment section what comes to mind for you of what the biggest need is for the Seahawks. We have daily Seattle Seahawks news and rumors here on the channel. We are covering free agency, trades, the draft, and more here on the channel. If you love your Seattle Seahawks and want more Seahawks coverage, this right here is the place to be for all the 12. Subscribe to the channel now, youtube.com/SeahawksTV. Be a real one. Subscribe. You ain't alive, you ain't subscribed to Seahawks Today, and you'll be glad you did. Let's look at the safety position now. Quandre Diggs, Seattle could potentially move on from. You also have Jamal Adams with his injury history. Are they going to keep him? So, although they liked what they saw from Ryan Neal, I think safety is going to be something they potentially look at just with the circumstances. Jesse Bates from Cincinnati is a name to keep in mind, as is Jordan Poyer from the Buffalo Bills, a really fantastic football player. Staying within the division in the NFC West, Taylor Rapp is a guy that could be somebody that the Seahawks keep their tabs on and somebody that they know pretty well. We mentioned Jesse Bates from Cincinnati. What about Von Bell from Cincinnati as well? He is going to be a free agent. And then there's Chauncey Gardner-Johnson from the Philadelphia Eagles. Gardner-Johnson's had a breakout season. He'll be somebody to watch for. I would think that Philadelphia is going to try to do what they can to keep him, though. The running back position, personally, I prefer to draft. Remember, you've already replaced Rashad Penny. He's probably gone. Kenneth Walker's your starter, but you need a number 2 back. So I doubt the Seahawks are going to be paying for one of these top running backs, but with that being said, here are the top running backs on the market. It's a good list. Saquon Barkley, also Josh Jacobs. Remember, the Raiders did not give Josh Jacobs his 5th-year option. Tony Pollard out of Dallas. He's been sitting behind Zeke. Wonder if he'll get his opportunity to be the number 1 back in Dallas or if he'll get his chance in free agency to go elsewhere. Miles Sanders in Philadelphia is a free agent, as is Damian Harris from New England. So I personally would rather draft, use a later-round pick to find your number 2 running back, but there are some talented backs on the market potentially if you do decide to go that route. Chime in for me. Name a player the Seahawks should sign in free agency. I'm mentioning a lot of guys that could make their way to Seattle, but I want to hear from you. Who are the top players that you would like to see in a Seahawks uniform next year? Let me know in the comments section. The wide receiver position is very interesting for Seattle. You have DK Metcalf locked up. Tyler Lockett is a little bit older, although he's coming off another 1,000-yard season, but there is a huge gap between those two in trying to find a number 3 receiver. Could you find a hybrid, a guy that could be your future, but still be your number 2 or 3 guy? Jacoby Myers from New England, he'll be a free agent. McCole Hardman of the Chiefs will also be a free agent. And in McCole Hardman's case, remember, he was drafted the same year as DK Metcalf, but things haven't gone as well for him as they would have expected to in Kansas City. He would definitely be the number 3 behind Lockett and Metcalf there. Allen Lazard in Green Bay is going to be another option. If the Packers are rebuilding, you could see them not re-sign Allen Lazard potentially. Juju also available out of Kansas City. We'll see what the Chiefs do if they bring him back. He had a nice bounce-back year in Kansas City. The guy I like here is DJ Chark from the Detroit Lions. He is somebody that I think could fit in for this Seahawks team, and you add him to your receiving corps, watch out. That could be a really good bunch with what they already have there. The cornerback position, you already have 2 young studs in Tariq Woolen and Kobe Bryant, but trying to find that nickel corner of some sorts. I don't know what Mike Jackson's future holds, but here's some of the top names at the cornerback position. Jamel Dean from Tampa Bay, James Bradbury from Philadelphia. Remember, Bradbury's name was talked about a lot last year. Patrick Peterson in Minnesota. Peterson, he very well has a chance to be a Hall of Famer when it's all said and done, I think, based on the career he had in Arizona and now in Minnesota. But he is an older guy, so something to keep in mind there. Emmanuel Mosley in San Francisco, and then there's Cameron Sutton in Pittsburgh as well. So there you have it. That is the complete list of potential free agent options for the Seahawks. The top 40 players by position of need. Who is the best free agent available? We went through all of it. Okay? I did not mention anything about Tom Brady. The Seahawks aren't signing Tom Brady. Get that out of your head if it was in your head. Who is the best free agent available? Let me know in the comments section. You can also interact with me on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and I'll see you next time right here on Seahawks Today.